Get comfortable, maybe dim the lights a little and just listen. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true stories where ordinary days turned unsettling. Pay attention, because you never know who or what might be watching. This happened when I was about 16. My aunt was visiting, and we were driving back from the grocery store to my mom's house. My parents are divorced, and my mom lived way out in the country, 10 minutes from anything. We pull into the driveway, and a red car pulls in right behind us. My aunt and I stay in the car as a man gets out and approaches the driver's side window. I still can't explain why, but everything about him screamed, "Creep!" Pasty skin, wide, unblinking eyes, and a stare that felt like it drilled straight through you. He tells us he's lost and looking for a fitness center in the next town over, the exact fitness center that sits a minute from the grocery store we had just left. Strange, but I give him directions anyway. He thanks me but keeps staring. Then he asks if we know each other. We tell him no. He gives me his name, like that will jog my memory. It doesn't. More staring. Then he asks my name. Being an anxious 16-year-old idiot, I tell him. Immediate regret. He confirms we don't know each other, then walks back to his car. My aunt and I both agree he was weird, but we shake it off and start unloading groceries. To get inside, you have to follow a long, winding path behind the house. My aunt steps back outside to grab the last bags, and I settle onto the couch in the living room with a clear view of the driveway. The red car is back. My aunt comes upstairs looking rattled. She says the man was almost at our back door, claiming he forgot the directions. She repeated them, right, left, right. Simple directions you literally couldn't mess up if you stayed on the main roads. Then she firmly told him to leave. We were both freaked out, but he didn't return again. A month passes. I'm at my dad's house and post something dumb on Facebook like, "I'm bored at my dad's. Who wants to hang out?" Pro tip: always set your page to private. A few minutes later, I get a message from him. He asks if I want him to come over. I was home alone and absolutely terrified. I blocked him instantly and told my dad. He contacted a cop friend to look him up. Turns out, this guy had been kicked out of a local university for stalking. He had 2 other stalking charges and a restraining order. Another month passes. I'm in study hall when a friend starts telling me about a guy who was stalking his older sister. He describes the whole situation, including how the stalker had once tried to run him off the road to get him to pull over, then jumped out of his car and started walking toward him before my friend sped off. You've already guessed it, same guy. And it gets worse. About 6 months later, he was arrested for attempting to kidnap 3 different women within the span of an hour, failing each attempt and nearly running over the last woman's father. I found the news article myself. Still gives me chills. I was about 16 when this happened. Because of my living situation, I made a 2-hour trip twice a month from a busy city back to my parents' rural home. About an hour and a half of that drive was nothing but empty country road, valleys of corn, long stretches of crops, and the occasional lonely farmhouse you'd swear no one actually lived in. By then, I was used to the isolation. No cell service, no payphones, nothing ever happened on that road, so I assumed nothing ever would. I was wrong. One night, as the sun slipped away and darkness settled in, I noticed a flash of light in the distance. Weird. Another flash. Maybe just someone with bad high beams? Then another. Okay. Something was off. I slowed down and eased toward the shoulder, trying to figure out what was ahead. That's when I saw them. Shapes moving in the road. People. As I got closer, I realized 4 figures were standing across the entire width of the road, shoulder to shoulder, forming a human roadblock. No cars around them. No houses nearby. No reason for them to be there. My stomach dropped. I drove maybe 10 miles per hour now, creeping forward, eyes locked on them. They were wearing huge, bright white masks. All 4. And 2 of them were holding bats, or something long and heavy enough to be weapons. The flashes I'd seen were coming from whatever the 4th person was holding. I'd heard enough horror stories to know I had 2 choices. Option 1, slow down and hope they stepped aside. Option 2, accelerate and pray I didn't crash or hit them. I chose the second. I had no real weapon, no self-defense training, and a flimsy car that anyone could break into. I felt like a kid trying to survive something meant for adults. Gravel flew under my tires as I accelerated. Panic made everything loud and blurry. The two figures directly in front of me jumped away at the last second, and I shot through the gap. My heart pounded as I finally let off the gas, and I saw them in my rearview mirror. The two who hadn't been in my path were sprinting toward my car. Sprinting, as if they could catch up or pull me out. That was the moment it hit me. They weren't kids messing around. They weren't bored teens looking for a scare. They were adults. And they meant harm. I floored it. I didn't look back, didn't turn on the radio, just focused on getting as far away as possible. When I finally made it home, shaking, I noticed something awful. Part of what I'd driven over wasn't gravel. It was nails. Dozens of them. Embedded in my tires. Somehow, miraculously, my tires had held. I never told my parents the full story. They assumed I'd just driven over nails some prankster tossed out. My friends brushed it off too. Said I was overthinking it, that being in a car gave me the advantage. But it still creeps me out. I think about it every time I drive down a road that even remotely looks like that one. And this happened before the Purge movies, so I can't even chalk it up to cosplay or pranks. What scares me most is the unanswered questions. Where did they come from? Why were they blocking a desolate road in the middle of nowhere? And how long had they been waiting for someone like me? All I know is this. They were real people. I was completely alone. And for a moment, I genuinely thought I might die on that empty country road. I was 24, driving from New Orleans to Eugene, Oregon in a 14-foot U-Haul stuffed with everything I owned. It was just me, my 2-year-old pit bull, a flip phone, and printed MapQuest directions. Service was terrible back then. There were stretches in the desert where you could go hundreds of miles without a single bar, somewhere in central Texas. On a dead, lonely highway, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't passed a town or exit in ages, and my giant U-Haul was running dangerously low on gas. Just as panic started to set in, a tiny town appeared like a mirage. It was microscopic, maybe 6 streets total. I pulled into the only gas station, filled up, and prepared to head back to the highway. Except I couldn't. I circled the entire town 4 times. I could see the highway, plain as day, but every road dead-ended or curved me away from it. It made no sense. Not in a town this small. Frustrated, I went inside the gas station for directions. Behind the counter stood a thin, unwashed man with black hair hanging in his face. He barely looked up from the magazine he was reading. He wasn't overtly creepy, just off, dismissive, like I was intruding. I asked how to get back to the interstate, and he casually told me to take a road that would lead me there in 17 miles. I stared at him, confused. 17 miles? I had driven maybe 1 mile from the highway to get into town. I told him that. His answer was a lazy shrug and some nonsense about the road, curving back around. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. Then, with a flick of his hand toward the door, he basically dismissed me. When I stepped outside, my whole body began trembling. My heart raced. I didn't know why, but I felt pure, primal fear. Fear of him. There was no way I was following his directions. But this was the only store in the whole town. There was no one else to ask, unless I started knocking on random doors like a maniac. I decided I'd just keep driving around until I found an exit, even if it took all night. That's when an old red pickup truck rattled into the lot, half rust, half metal. A big man in flannel and work boots climbed out. He looked like the definition of Texas. Before I could second-guess myself, I rushed over and asked if he knew how to get to the highway. I must have looked distraught, because his face softened immediately. He cracked a joke to make me laugh, then gave me clear, cheerful instructions. A sharp, hard-to-see turn, right after a tiny cement tunnel. the one I'd unknowingly passed multiple times. I asked him how far the highway was. He laughed. "Miles. Miss, it ain't even a quarter mile. You can see it from here." My stomach dropped. I hesitated, then told him the directions the gas station clerk had given me. The man went silent. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and asked how I knew about that road. "Locals only," he said. I told him the clerk's exact words. He asked what the guy looked like, then asked if I had a proper map. I didn't, just MapQuest printouts. He went to his truck, pulled out an old folded state map, and spread it on his hood. Tracing the route the clerk had given me, he showed me where it led, 17 miles into the middle of nowhere. A dead-end desert road with nothing at the end but junked cars, broken trailers, and a cluster of run-down mobile homes, property of one local family. A family, he said, known for trouble, drug problems, violence, people the town avoided. "And that fella at the counter?" he added quietly. "He's one of theirs." I'll never forget the look in his eyes. Serious, grim, protective. He told me I was smart to trust my instincts and to be careful on the rest of my trip. I don't know if the gas station clerk wanted what was in the back of my U-Haul or what was in the driver's seat. But I know for sure I wasn't meant to come back from that 17-mile road. And I'll always be grateful for the stranger in the rusted red pickup. Sometimes angels don't have wings. They have flannel, work boots, and a Texas drawl. Thanks for listening. If this story gave you chills, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Stay aware out there. You never know who's watching.